Hi folks, in this video we are going to cover the transformation tool. Let's jump into it. First I'm going to go to File, Open, and from the Photoshop class files, I'm going to select President Taft to transform. Okay, and hit Open. So here's President Taft. Before we transform President Taft, or more specifically, I want to transform his head, we have to select the head to tell Photoshop that's the part I want to transform. So to do this, we have our different selection tools. Now I could draw a box around his head, or I could draw an oval around his head. Probably if I was going to cut out his head to stick on a dollar bill or something. But I want more of a accurate selection rather than a general like this. Now the magic wand tool isn't going to do it because it's going to select everything else. I just want his head area. So of course lasso is the way to go. And not just any lasso. Instead of the polygonal or magnetic, I'm going to use the freehand lasso tool. Now I'm going to zoom in. Remember, to zoom in is Command plus on a Mac keyboard, Control plus on a PC. So let me zoom in twice. I'm going to hold down Command and tap the plus button twice. Okay. And in order to scroll up to get his face into view, I can either use the scroll wheel on your mouse, or you can hold down the spacebar key and left mouse click and drag. Okay, now that's the spacebar key for either Mac or PC. It's the same. Okay, so now that I have his head centered here, let's go ahead and draw a selection line around President Taft's head. So doesn't matter where you start. I'm going to start right here. Hold down my left mouse button and start drawing a line. You notice I'm not being that accurate. There's some strands of hair that's not being selected there, but that's okay. I'm getting most of his head in the line. Okay, and as I come around to his neck here, oh, I went too much there, to his collar. That's okay, we can clean that up after we finish. Sorry, my mouse is going off of the mouse pad there. Coming back around here, getting a little bit of his mustache. Remember, with lasso tools, you have to come back to your original starting point and close off the loop and let go. All right, now let's clean up some of the selection lines here. Remember, to take away from your selection, you're going to hold down the Option key or the Alt key if you're on a PC. If you look at my cursor here, once I hold down the Option key, there's a minus. And I'm just going to take off this white portion of his collar. So I'm going to draw a loop around that part and loop back around to my starting point. There you go. There's a little bit of the background here, so let me get that part out. If you want to add to the selection, say I want to add this part of his hair that I forgot, hold down the Shift key and watch the cursor. Now I got a plus there. So let me start from here. Holding down my left mouse button, I'm dragging along this area here. Remember to go back and close off your loop right there. And that's added. Let me get that little piece of hair sticking out here, holding down the shift key and holding down my left mouse button, coming back around to my starting point, let go. There you go. Now I'm gonna back out once to zoom out. Remember, hold down your command key and hit the minus key. Control if you're on a PC and minus key. Okay, that should be enough. So now we've got his head selected. That's telling Photoshop, okay, I want to transform just his head, not the entire picture. Okay, so I'm gonna. There's two ways you can use the transform action, if you will. First way is to come up to your edit menu, click on edit. From the drop down menu, choose free transform or transform, one of these two. They're both the same pretty much. Let's go with free transform. When you select that, as you notice, you have a bounding box here. So you can transform the selection, whatever's within this dotted line here. And you can do that by grabbing one of these transformation handles, like so. Now you notice when I did that, when I changed the size of his head, it basically cut his head out. Now, if you don't want that to happen, you have to create a copy of his head. So let me hit escape to undo all of that and reset the head back to normal. Now it still has the selection line available. What I'm going to do right now is right click and select layer via copy. Now, of course, we didn't learn the layer system yet here in the lower right hand corner. That'll be a little bit later after we learn all of our tools. Okay, so just bear with me for now, and once we do learn the layer system, this method that I'm about to show you folks will make a lot more sense. By the way, the right click and layer via copy thing, that's an option available to all of your selection tools, at least these three right here, the marquee, lasso, and magic wand. So even though I use the lasso tool to make the selection, if I wanted to layer this via copy, I could also activate my magic wand tool, right click, and choose layer via copy, and it'll do the same thing. Okay, so once your selection is made, right click, layer via copy. Now if I do layer via cut, it would cut his head out, and if I move the head, you'll see that big white open space like you just did when I tried to transform the head. So we're going to do layer via copy, and basically what that does is it creates a copy of whatever was selected and sticks it on another layer. So you can't tell right now that there's a copy of his head unless I turn off the background, visibility on the background, by clicking on the eye here. There's his head copy. Or if I select the move tool and make sure layer 1 is selected, and left mouse click and drag his head, now you can see I have a copy. Thus the name layer via copy. Okay, now I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that, put his head back to normal. Okay, now let's do the transform tool. So let's come up here to edit, free transform. By the way, if you folks, I don't know, I'm not sure if you folks can hear, but there's a rooster in the background. I'm on the KCC campus right now in my office making these videos, and for some reason, for those of you folks who come to campus, you folks might have seen those chickens running around campus. They decided to park themselves outside of my office and start crowing, so I apologize for that. Okay, So getting back to the transform tool, you can grab any one of these handles here to transform his head. So left mouse click and drag, and of course you can resize his head. You notice that when I grab any of the handles here to resize the head stays in proportion. It doesn't get skewed. Okay. Now, in order to skew the transformation, you hold down the shift key as you click, left mouse click and drag on one of these handles. Hold down the shift key as well. And now you can skew the proportions of the head. If you ever let go of the shift key while you're, dragging around your mouse, it'll snap back to the proportion here and stay pretty much in proportion. Now, after you've made your change, like so, and you don't like it, you want to cancel the change, hit escape, and it cancels out. In order to bring your transformation box back, go back up to edit, free transform, or use the shortcut keys on your keyboard. For the Mac, hold down Command and T for transform. That'll bring that back. For you PC guys or gals, Control T to bring up this box. Now, if you ever make a change and you want it to be permanent, you're gonna hit the return key or enter key, and then it becomes permanent. Now I'm gonna hit Command Z to undo that. Control Z for you PC folks. And I'm gonna hit Command T to bring up the transformation box once more. So remember, you can transform this way. You can hold down the shift key and change it that way. You can also right click and choose from any of these options. We've already seen scale. If I go scale, this is scale. If you hold on shift while you do scale, you do that. I'm going to hit Command Z. Right click, rotate. If you choose that option, when you come up to the corner handles, you notice my cursor changes to a semicircle with arrows on it. If you click and drag, you start rotating the head around, like so. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. Right click, skew. Okay, you notice my cursor changes to a white arrow. If you grab on one of the corners, this is skew. Okay, so if you grab on multiple corners, you can really skew his head like so. Now I'm going to hit escape to reset the head back. Edit. Remember, we did free transform at first. If you come to transform, you have the menu. What I usually do is I just use free transform, and if I want that menu, I'll right click to get that menu. So we covered scale, rotate, skew. Let's go with distort now. Grab one of the corners. Basically the same thing as skew for distort. Now I'm going to hit escape to reset. Command T or Control T to bring the transformation box back. Right click. Let's go with perspective now. Now you folks may know perspective from art lessons. That's perspective. Okay. Where you have a vantage point or disappearing vantage point. Yeah. Like if you have, remember, if you folks have taken art classes, you have the horizon line, and you can have disappearing vantage point. If the vantage point was here, then you would have something like that, yeah, where the converging lines would go to the vanishing point here. So that's what perspective does. Let me hit escape to reset. Command T to bring my transformation box back. Right click, warp. Now warp is my favorite transform action or tool. You notice there's a grid now within the transformation box. You can grab anywhere within any of these boxes to transform or warp whatever is selected. So let's do that now. I'm going to grab here and pull to the left. You notice it gives sort of like a 3D look to it. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo. Let's try the middle box. Okay. Let's try one of these secondary handles here. That really is starting to look like Jabba the Hutt. So you can really warp, as the tool implies, his head. Of course, here you can see the other head. If I turn off visibility, that's how his head looks like. So this other hair is the copy of him in the background, yeah? So now if I back out by holding Command and minus to back out, that really, you really changed there, huh? So now if you don't like any of that, you can hit Command Z, Command Shift Z, but yeah, Command Z to go all the way back through your history. And now hit Command T and you have your transformation back again, your transformation box. You can always, because I have my transformation box over and the move tool here. Oh, there you go. We can still transform his head off to the side here and whatnot. Let me hit escape and command to bring that head back. Okay, and now let's zoom in again. Command plus to zoom in. Space bar and left mouse click and drag to pull his head up. Right click, rotate 180 degrees. Flips the head upside down. Undo, Command Z or Control Z. Right click, rotate 90 degrees clockwise. 90 degrees clockwise. Command Z to undo. Right click, rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. By the way, you can keep going too. Right click, rotate 90 degrees, rotate, right click, rotate another 90, and you can go all the way around. Okay? So right click, flip horizontal. Does that. Command Z to undo. Right click, flip vertical. Does that. You can do a right click, flip vertical like I just did, then right click, flip horizontal. Do that. Right click, warp. So you can do a combination of all of these transform tools. Okay, hit escape if you don't like, if you want to reset. And there you go. So that's the transformation tool used in conjunction with the lasso tool. Now, if you did not want to make a selection before you use the transform tool, you wanted to transform the entire picture, you don't need to use the any of the selection tools. The selection tools in this situation are only used if you want to select a particular item within the picture. If you just wanted to select his nose, you draw around his nose. like so. Hit Command T to bring up the transformation box, or let me hit escape. Right click, layer via copy to make a copy of his nose. Okay. So now I have a copy of his nose over the copy of his face, which is the copy of his face here. So in order to see that, I have my move tool. Let's move the nose off to the side here. Then we gotta switch the layer to his face to grab that. So we've got 3 copies of his nose here. So let me Command Z to undo. So remember, we gotta make the active layer. We have to activate the layer by clicking on it. Once again, I will teach that to you folks later when we go over the layer system. Hit Command T and right click, and you can choose whatever option you want. Let's go with warp, and you can really change his nose any way we want. Remember, hit enter to accept the changes. And there you go. Got a different type of nose there. Command minus to zoom out. Okay. So the command tool, or I'm sorry, the transform tool is probably one of the besides the selection tools here, the free transform or transform tool is probably one of the most used tools and actions that you folks are going to use in Photoshop. So get used to it, because you folks will use it a lot. Okay, that's it for this video, and see you folks in the next.